And obviously, all of
And
our
what's Silks
panelists,
like
and we've spent most of our time talking about the big four, the four horses coming out of the Kentucky Derby. Most years, it does appear that somebody is ready to pop up into this kind of a race. Of course, last year we had Bernardini, who may or may not have won this race last year had Barbaro remained healthy through the running of the race. But this year, it appears that the new shooters, as it were, may be a little bit of a step below, at least as of right now, in terms of their overall quality. Any particular opinions from our panel about the new shooters, any of them in particular, and if they think that they might have a shot? These horses, of course, from the inside out are Mint Slulip, Exchanger, King of the Roxy, Flying First Class, and CP West. We'll start at this end of the table with Seth.
I like one new shooter that I'm going to have in my mix and I think is going to offer some value, and that's the number 9 CP West for trainer Nick Zito. And it's mostly a trainer angle here in that Zito, if you look historically, he's caused some damage and that's some value in some of these Triple Crown races. Louis Couture's, Birdstone, but you don't have to go any further back than last year. Hemingway's Key ran third in the Preakness at 29-1. Now Hemingway's Key came into the race with an awful looking 3-year-old record, but he had a workout just before the Preakness up at the Oklahoma track right here at Saratoga in a minute and change over that Oklahoma track. That's a pretty good workout. So he had a good workout leading into the Preakness, and as I said earlier, if you're going to look at trainer patterns, and we had a slow workout from Asmussen, a nice workout from Zito is what CP West gets coming into this race down at Belmont on May 14th, a 47-1, second best of 107 that day. So it looks like he's cranking CP West up for his third start of the year, always an important start. He's stretching nicely. He debuted in 2007. His 3-year-old debut was at 7 furlongs. He stretched out to a mile in the Withers last time and ran a nice second behind a horse that looks like he's going to be a good one, Divine Park. So I think CP West could be cranked up for a good one. And as I say, I'm going to have him in my mix somewhere. Should get some decent value.
Anthony?
For me, I'm disappointed because typically the new players on the Triple Crown Trail offer the value. You mentioned Hemingway's Key and Bernardini just, bookending the trifecta last year in the Preakness Stakes. You're almost always going to get a tremendous price on those horses. And this year, it's going to be, I think, very cut and dry. The 4 horses coming out of the Kentucky Derby, I think, are going to be such a short price mix and trifecta wager payouts versus the other 5. CP West, last fall, or going all the way back to the debut, I thought this horse had a huge upside. I love this type of pedigree. You have a very good 7 furlong to a mile and 1/8 stallion, came home, who we saw win the Hopeful and other stakes races out of a Dynaformer mare. I mean, the type of pedigree, and I'm not a pedigree expert, but I do enjoy it, that I'm looking forward to in a good horse. Third race, off of back-to-back second-place finishes, beaten favorites. In my opinion, he can only move forward, except the fact that he hasn't moved forward off of his first 2 career starts. That's not to say that he won't on this day, because this is a good spot for him. But I think that 2 or more of the Derby horses would have to really step back, because even if CP West moves forward, I think he has to move far too dramatically forward to run down some of these other horses in here. Flying First Class, I have nothing to think that this horse, except he will affect the race greatly. King of the Roxy, I've not been a believer. I mean, you're supposed to win the San Diego Derby. That was the one race I would have thought Team Valor, I thought they had a chance with this runner to win a Grade 1 going 2 turns, and quite honestly, I didn't think he wanted anything to do with the last 16th of a mile. Exchanger, you know what? I mean, I could see him running okay. We saw Oliver's Twist run well, and Magic Wiser, the local horses, run well enough. Mint Slulip, I don't expect anything from here. To me, there's like a continental divide here between the 4 from the Kentucky Derby and the 5 that are jumping in here. I personally am disappointed by that, because it's an angle that I typically like to use, and I'm a guy who watches Handicap Sport. I mean, I'm searching to fish to bring one of these into the loop. The only one that I probably possibly could, and that's no higher than second, you definitely use him in 3rd and 4th slot, is Seth's horse, CP West.
The 1 horse Mint Slulip is clearly a pace factor, will melt and perhaps get in the way of somebody. The 2 Exchanger is a horse that I think is very interesting. Ramon Dominions is not going to get off the rail. I think this horse looms to get the best trip of the second-tier horses in here. Ran a new top last time. This is trainer Mark Schumann, who does get horses ready. And as our good friend Jim Mazur would say, for me, Exchanger is the Maryland crab cake, who may bust up everybody's or make everybody's exotic tickets. King of the Roxy is a horse, Anthony, that I have more of an interest in. Barry Irwin, who I think is a pretty straightforward guy, said that they knew immediately after the Breeders' Cup Juvenile that they weren't going to go to the Derby. Now, King of the Roxy is questionable on pedigree for the Derby, but they knew they weren't going to go because the horse wasn't right or was sick or they lost some training. And so they said they were going to the Preakness. Now, I think the Team Valor, and I'd encourage anyone out there, you're watching us on the web tonight. When you finish watching us, go to teamvalor.com and read their record in graded stakes and in the Triple Crown. They don't show up too often. They've been to the Triple Crown 6 times, and they've placed 4 times. So that's pretty good. And I'm going to take Barry Irwin at his word, and this is Todd Pletcher. I think there's upside to King of the Roxy. There certainly is a distance question. I will be surprised if he wins, but I think he's going to run very well. Flying First Class is going to melt somewhere down the middle of the backstretch, either on his own accord or when Hard Spun and the real runners come after him. And CP West, no offense to you, anybody in here, no shot to win. And perhaps an underneath horse for me. On Thoroughgraph figures, his fastest figure is a 5. Certainly he's got an upside. Certainly. And Anthony, I think you said it right. The horses exiting the Derby really have to run, to quote you, considerably less well. And someone has got to run considerably better. So that's how I see the outside horses.
It does look like there is, as Anthony said, a continental divide between the horses coming out of the Kentucky Derby a couple of weeks ago and the new shooters in this year's running of the Preakness. And obviously, Nick Zito's got some experience, as does Wayne Lucas, in terms of bringing horses into these kind of races. But it still looks like a very, very big step forward for any of those horses to get into the at least into the exacta with the big 4 that everybody is dealing with. I guess it's time